Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Welcome to our Rise from the Ashes series as we commemorate the first anniversary of the April 2021 eruption of La Soufrière volcano. And this evening, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, on a program last evening on VC3, recalled the moments leading up to him issuing the evacuation order 1 year ago for residents in the danger zones of the volcano on the advice of lead monitoring scientist, Professor Dr. Richard Robertson.
That particular morning of the Thursday the 8th, Michelle called me, Michelle Forbes, sometime after 5 o'clock. The morning, and said to me that there's some real serious elevations in the readings, and that Richie was quite concerned and he wants to talk to me in some detail. And then a little later, which is I think the one you're talking about, he said, I think you need to give the evacuation order now under the NEMO Act. So I made the arrangements with the press secretary to get all the media houses in order and for us to hook up together. And I gave that notification sometime around 4:30 or thereabouts, I think, the afternoon. And I was very calm because it doesn't do anybody any good for me not to be calm. I'm the Prime Minister, I'm the Minister responsible for disaster preparedness, disaster management. And I know that we were in for a rough ride because at that time, when I made the call, Richie Robertson had said to me that sometime within the next 24 hours that the Soufrière is going to erupt. And of course, the eruption took place the morning of the 9th, Friday the 9th of April.
PM Gonsalves said that there was a very well-organized system in place. However, as expected, with any plan on such a scale, there were a few hiccups.
We wanted to make sure that all the transportation, which we had hitherto organized, to gather at particular points, and we had been providing the information for some time, because there was an overall national plan. In Georgetown, for instance, you gather at this particular spot. In Chile, you gather up in Sandy Bay, in Oya, in Fancy, different places. Unfortunately, some of the buses were late because they were taking the last set of their regular transport out of town or wherever they were going. And a simple matter that they had not, some of them had not been fully prepared with making sure that their tank was full during the course of the day as I was making the announcements. Some were a little lackadaisical. So you find that some say, but we don't have enough gas to go and go down back into town and come back. So I had to get Lolly gas station at Mount Young to open later than usual and to be providing gasoline. And make the necessary records, and we had somebody doing the checks and the like. Thank God the evacuation went quite well. There were a lot of individual transportation, and on the leeward side especially, from Chateau-Belair.
The nation's leader said 1/5 of the population, approximately 20,000 persons, were evacuated, and thankfully no one was seriously injured, and there were no deaths as compared to the 1902 eruption, which claimed 2,000 lives. PM Gonsalves said although the country has somewhat returned to a state of normalcy, in some ways there are still people who are not able to live a normal life.
We have just about, I suspect at the moment, close to 100 or thereabouts of persons in shelters here and there. Some of them are not Soufrière related. Some of them took advantage subsequent to the Soufrière and moved into some of these places because naturally they feel if they stay there, they will have a force call on the new houses which are being built. And some of them want to get free meals. Some go elsewhere, you know, buy their home and come to the shelters. So there's still some lack of normalcy there. And some old people were left in the shelters by their families and haven't gone for them, and we have to take care of them. That's the nature of this situation.
In North Leeward, the rebuilding and recovery efforts is proven to be difficult for some residents. Residents who spoke to SVG-TV News say they are not receiving timely assistance for the rebuilding of their homes damaged by ashfall. We hear more in this report.
Neglected, abandoned, and left to fend for themselves. This is how residents in the North Leeward areas of the island describe their lives since the eruption of La Soufrière last year. We heard stories of residents who have tried to scrape together funds to purchase building materials as they are growing tired of waiting on assistance from government.
And in Soufrière, my house get damaged. I had to buy some second-hand galvanized like to do half the roof, and then they come assess me, and up to now they didn't come to do the other half, and it leaking bad.
By ash, we really damage the place, you see? Mash up all them galvanized, real ash.
It just mash up. And up to now, they can't come and do anything. Just come, just measure and go. Well, we feel bad. Because then just come and just measure and go and so, and then say we have to get we own cement and we own blocks to repair the whole house because the whole house mash up.
Well, I have my damage right now. The same house then who go around, who fix people roof. But like some certain people are getting their place, because water dropping on me right now. True. On my bed. And my old man who I have, or run away, he dead. My husband. So I don't have no help.
Residents we spoke to said the memory of the eruption is still fresh in their minds, particularly the morning of the first explosion.
I never like experiencing another one. Yeah, because it really trembled me morning. I was right there the same morning, right by me friend Hackpen. Just as I reached this, so I hear this big rumbling. So I'm like, oh wait a them hear again. So I mean, you know, it get four, it get two like boom, boom, and then it get like boom, you know. And then we see things start to go up in the air, everybody start to run.
To tell you the truth, it was real kind of rough. That I just had to left everything and just run, you know what I mean?
Down here, when me come like the Wednesday, down here while, if I see ashes, if I see state on my foot.
Yeah, white.
White, me tell you. And also those all these ashes on the road, so if I see all those come down inside my house, right now is yesterday I clean up my pay saver with all the ashes.
For residents who farm the land, it has been difficult days as the soil, still heavy with ash, has not allowed them to reap crops.
The amount of ash that is on my land is like every time you plant something, it tends to die because of the amount of ash. You know, the ash is so strong that it kill your plant, so it's kind of difficult doing that, even have a means of survival.
It's still a mechanical thing, but not like first time now, because the ashes are kill most, I think. You know, I get produce from the crop of them like how you used to get it right now.
Well, the farming is bad for the farmers, because sometimes when you plant, according to seed, then I bust, because remember, it's suffer ashes, and the sun hat now goes boil them, you know. Sometimes you plant, it slip, sometimes slip and then come good, and sometimes then I come.
And now that the leeward side of the island is shaking off the effects of the eruption and nature is beginning to thrive, the hope is that residents can soon do the same. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Christina Smith.
And a number of persons contributed greatly to ensure no life was lost due to the 2021 explosive eruption of La Soufrière volcano. One of these persons is boat captain and Owe resident Wayne Lane, who along with his team have received praise for their heroic efforts. Lane shares his experience with our news team. Here is more.
As the island approaches the 1-year anniversary of the explosive eruptions of La Soufrière volcano in April 2021, the bravery and humanitarian work of several persons is being highlighted, including the effort of this young man, boat captain and Oria resident Wayne Lane. As the mountains of La Soufrière rumbles with explosion from the volcano, Lane, who served 10 years with the British Royal Navy, was among 5 men from Oria who sailed back to their home village in a small pirogue to get residents who were trapped to a safer environment, with Oria being one of the communities in the red or danger zone. Speaking of his experience going back in the red zone while the volcano was erupting, Lane said it was like a movie and they were determined to complete the mission.
After we docked up the boat, we went around, looking for people. Trying to say to them like, yo, it's only gonna get worse. You need to get out. And I think at that point, I got a call from Rochelle saying, the Coast Guard should be up there around like 1 o'clock. And, thankfully they decided to come again, because the amount of people that were still there, we couldn't fit them on the boat.
For at least 2 days straight, the young men were on the sea, battling the elements, including a cloudy sky with heavy ash, helping to evacuate persons.
We had to take people in, because at this point now, the Coast Guard boats couldn't get into where the fishery complex is. So much sand and debris and all that kind of stuff. So we were literally loading people on our boats and taking them onto the Coast Guard. And we still, some people, we still had a hard time convincing people that you need to get out of here.
Lane said their mission getting into the red zone under dangerous conditions was not because of fame, but because of the love and respect that they have for the people.
Like a really close-knit community, So we did it for the love, More like all of us that went on the boat that day had some relative who had stayed behind. So we were just trying to, get them out. People said like, oh, you're so brave. But obviously I spent 10 years in the Royal Navy, obviously, so it wasn't anything new.
According to Lane, if he is given the opportunity to do it all over again, risking his life for his people, he will do it without any hesitation.
I mean, I'm good. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Every time I scroll back through my Facebook or through my photos, and I see like a video or something remind me of it, tears come to my eye. I know I seem all butch and stuff, but no. Tears come to my eye.
Other than their rescue efforts on the sea, Lane and his team provided other humanitarian works on the ground, including distributing food and water to residents as they settle in the various shelters. 1 year on, Lane said, though residents of Oria and surrounding communities are still struggling to get back on their feet, he is confident that they will rise again. Reporting for SVG-TV News, I am Nashika Davis-Hope.
And Chief Executive Officer of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Electricity Company, VINLEC, Tony Myers, recalled how the 2021 volcanic eruption affected their service, particularly in the danger zones. Myers took us through their emergency plan and how prepared they were.
Getting into gear and preparing ourselves for the volcanic eruption is part of what we do on a regular and on an annual basis. So from the time we were alerted in December of 2020 that there is a possibility that there could be eruptions of the volcano, an eruption of the volcano, we started preparing ourselves for that eventuality. We have 3 power plants essentially in the orange and yellow zone. So we alerted our staff that if an evacuation order is issued, we alerted them of what they needed to do. And when the evacuation order was issued, we specifically closed down the plant at Richmond, and the other 2 plants were left to operate.
Myers explained the biggest challenge the company faced during the eruptions and said he is proud of how it was handled by the team.
The worst for us happened pretty early in the eruptions. Our worst day was on Saturday the 10th of April when we experienced an entire system outage. It took us about 6 hours to reestablish the entire system. It wasn't a very pleasant experience. The country is under an emergency. We've lost power, and essentially we were, so to speak, under the gun, because our own operating philosophy is that we want to maintain power throughout the country in any emergency. Then an emergency arises and we lost power in the entire country. So we've learned a few lessons out of that, and part of our planning and rehearsing for emergencies being revised. And we're hopeful that, if such events happen in the future, we'll be able to reestablish power in a much quicker time.
The Vinlec CEO said in light of the country's economic slowdown, the company would have contributed millions to Vin's engines affected by the volcanic eruptions.
Immediately following the volcanic eruptions, we offered customers a 10% discount on their electricity bills. And that went on for about 6 months. In effect, that particular gesture by the company is equivalent to just about $3.1 million. And in the areas where persons were evacuated, we offered additional relief to those persons in the tune of about $600,000. And combined with the assistance that we give to persons who are in evacuation centers and so on, the next contribution is approximately $4.1 million.
SVG was among 58 countries, including 5 from the Caribbean, which earlier today abstained from voting to expel Russia from the United Nations Human Rights Council. During the vote at the UN General Assembly, 93 countries voted on the U.S. proposed resolution to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council. 24 countries opposed and 58 abstained. The resolution cited gross and systematic violations and abuses of human rights by invading Russian troops in Ukraine. The other Caribbean countries which abstained are Barbados, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield had called for Russia to be expelled from the 47-nation body on Monday, citing its participation a farce after videos and photos from a Ukrainian town showed dead bodies of what appeared to be civilians. Both the Ukrainian and the U.S. accused Russia of a massacre, which Moscow vehemently denied. And the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Tourism Authority will be rolling out new initiatives so that visitors can feel more safe in the country and can easily identify vaccinated taxi drivers and tour guides. Speaking at a news conference on Wednesday, CEO of the SVG Tourism Authority, Glenn Beach, spoke on the vaccination official identification card that is being designed and will soon be printed to be distributed to persons who are tourism approved, including tour guides.
The pandemic came on board, we said, why not, and especially when after the vaccinations came out, why not look at something that also showed the vaccination of our taxi drivers, our tour guides, tour operators, to make sure that if anything, if passengers wanted to check to make sure that their drivers, their tour guides are vaccinated, there was a way for it to do it. So what we have done, instead of just doing the ID card, it has become an ID card and vaccination card for our taxi drivers, tour guides, tour operators. And what it does, it gives you, and as you can see on the screen, it's a perfect example of what this card looks like. Picture, date of your first dose, date of your second dose, the batch number, the date it was taken. Now, on the back of that ID card is a QR code. Now, this QR code carries you to a verification screen, which will give you all of that information. But on top of that, if you've had boosters, it will give you that also and give you some more information to confirm.
Pete said that the Tourism Authority will also be designing similar cards to be sold to the public at a cost of $150 to $200. DC said will be done in conjunction with the Ministry of Health.
We are also looking at providing this for the public, but it will be at a cost. We have not priced it out completely, but from what we're seeing, we're looking at between $150 to $200 for one of these cards to the public. Now, people might say this is expensive. One has to look, we've priced it to make sure that we include everything that we have had to source. It's a special printer. It does unique QR codes. As you would know, any of you who does printing know the printer is the cheaper part. The ink, and to replace the ink is what is expensive. As you can see, the printer we have prints both sides, which brings up the cost even a bit more. Now, this is especially going to be useful for those people who travel a lot in terms of verification at airports and other places. We do know that there are certain cities, certain countries that you have to show verification of being vaccinated before you go into a restaurant, go into cinemas, these sort of things.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves on radio yesterday said that the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking to expand its services with plans to construct a banking facility at Peters Hope in central Leeward. PM Gonsalves said he already discussed the proposal with senior officials from the bank.
Chairman Morris Edwards, the CEO Derry Williams, Benny Stapleton, the financial controller, and Camilo and the Director General of Finance and Planning. Some issues connected with the bank. And the proposal which they had brought earlier, they are activating it for a facility, a banking facility, to be located at Peters Hope. And we are thinking about a facility which is there with banking and we're even saying to them from before they had the thing that they could build the facility for the police station and we rent it. We do it in a partnership now.
Yeah.
Because state entities have to be leveraged too. Well, that one is not only for, it's 63% owned by the government and the national insurance. And they can't treat depositors' money cavalierly. But they have to do things which will work also in communication with in communion with the communities.
A number of secondary school students across the island are now more informed about the functions and operations of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. The ministry concluded the first phase of its annual school visit program, where 400 students, forms 3 to 5, and community college students were treated to presentations from ambassadors and diplomats, including those from the Embassy of Venezuela, Cuba, and Taiwan. Communications Officer Janelle Fredericks said the ministry is hoping students take a special interest in foreign affairs and will join the ministry in the future.
So students got an insight into how we negotiate, where that is the foreign trade side, how countries, in terms of how we partner with them in various avenues. For example, diplomacy. You have a visiting ambassador who comes here. How would we greet them? What are the protocols involved? You know, why are we under UN Security Council? They were also giving insights into that. Why are they necessary for us to have ambassadors or honorary consuls to represent St. Vincent and the Grenadines? You know, students, we see them as the future generation. We want them to know that, you know, we are here making sure that we keep this legacy going so that when you come, you'll be able to take over. And I believe the students learned a lot. They learned about the negotiations, they learned about the protocol and consular unit, they learned about the foreign policy, the research and what is involved and so forth, and how our embassies, what are they doing out there for us.
Projects also reminded the public that the ministry's literary arts competition closes tomorrow, Friday, April 8th. The competition is open to all intentions from age 9 and features 3 entry categories: narrative, poetry, short story essay, and pictorial narrative.
To encourage you to please participate, it's not too late. You can find the information via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Facebook page at MOFA SVG. You can also find it on Twitter, or if you're in Kingston today, I don't know what time, but before 5 p.m. on the 8th of April, once you're in Kingston and you feel like to pop by the ministry for the flyers, it will be available there too. So the competition is tailored to Vincentians. We encourage you to please send in your submissions via wcidcompetitions2022@gmail.com, and it's an opportunity. It's a chance. You take a chance and you see where it goes.
A fire in Bottom Garden, Layu last evening destroyed the upper floor of a 2-story dwelling house. According to reports, the tenant or occupant lost everything. The source of the fire is unknown. However, it is under police investigation.